This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't watched part 1 where we make a pizza dough and then use that to make a New York style pizza, go ahead and check that out first before you watch this one. If you've already checked that out, then let's continue on with our next dish. Calzones. Now to make a calzone, we're first going to need to do some prep for the filling, mainly ricotta cheese. So set inside a bowl a strainer and line the bottom of the strainer with 2 layers of paper towels. Into the paper towels, scoop the ricotta cheese. I personally go with 10 to 12 ounces or a little more than a cup of ricotta for each calzone I'm making before I strain it. Once you have the amount that you want in the strainer, cover the top of the strainer with 2 more layers of paper towels and slightly press down on the top of the ricotta. For the best results, take a heavy object like a can and place it on the top of the ricotta to press it down and wick away the moisture. Once you have done this, set the ricotta aside for about 20 to 30 minutes. In the meantime, get your fillings prepped and ready to go. Whatever you choose, make sure your fillings are fully cooked and in relatively small bite-sized pieces. For most calzones, thinly sliced or grate mozzarella cheese and then set it aside. Now with all the fillings prepped, let's move on to the dough. Now, when you're ready to make the calzones, dust the counter with flour, place 1 piece of your dough down, and stretch the dough out just like you did before with the New York pizzas. Dust the peel with cornmeal and stretch the dough out onto the peel. On one half of the dough, place the mozzarella cheese on the bottom of the dough, leaving about ½ inch space between the edge. Then go ahead and spread on the drained ricotta cheese. Spread it onto an even layer and then lay down your fillings. For my first calzone, I'm going with a pepperoni layer here. Now, you can add some more mozzarella cheese over the top if you would like, but for me, what I put down at first is good enough for me. Now, go ahead and fold the top half of the dough over your fillings. Stretch it all the way to the edge of the bottom layer and using your thumb, press down and seal the calzone all the way around. And there you go. Now you're ready to bake this. Now slide the calzone into a 450-degree oven onto the pizza stone and bake for about 20 to 25 minutes or until the calzone is nice and golden brown. While that's baking, I'm going to assemble my other calzone, an Italian meatball calzone. Once the calzone looks nice and browned, pull it out of the oven carefully and set it onto a cutting board to cool. Once it's cooled, you can cut into it using a knife or pizza... Well, at least we have another calzone ready to go. Once that calzone is ready and cooled off slightly, go ahead and slice into it. Nice and warm with that layer of cheese, gooey and melted. Right now, it's ready to serve. Now, traditionally, calzones are served with a marinara sauce, like the red sauce we made earlier. But I had some leftover tomato soup from the day before, so I just heated that up for this. Just dip the calzone or spoon the sauce right over and enjoy. It's like the most wonderful pizza sandwich, and what's not to love about that? Garlic knots. Now for a great appetizer. For garlic knots, you're going to dust the counter with flour just like before and set your dough down and flour the top. Now the big difference here in the way that you shape the dough is instead of stretching out the dough, you're going to press it out into a flat, even disc, roughly the size of your hand. Then, using either a pizza cutter, a dough blade, or even clean scissors dusted with flour, you're going to cut a long strip of dough for the knots. It's a little weird to describe, so mostly just watch me here. I'm going to cut about an inch around the edge of the dough, kind of into a spiral pattern. Then, to make it easier for me to keep going as I get closer to the center, I'm going to pick up the dough, and as I cut, I'm gonna kind of unroll the remaining circle of dough and continue doing that until I have a long, mostly even thickness rope of dough to work with. The reason why I do it this way is so that every piece of dough and every garlic knot is the same thickness and the same size. Whereas if I cut the dough into strips, the pieces near the ends of the circle will be a lot smaller and thinner than those in the center. Now to shape the knots, what you're going to do is you're going to take one hand and wrap the end of the dough around 2 of your fingers, and then you're going to tuck the dough right underneath between your 2 fingers. Then just firmly pull the knot and rip it right off the rope, and you've got yourself a single knot. So pretty. Then go ahead and place that onto the side. So to see that again, take your 2 fingers, wrap the end around your fingers, tuck the end in through the center, and then pull the knot right off the rope. And that's it. From there, just keep making knots, going down the rope until you get close to the end. When you get to the end, you can either discard that end piece or just bake it alongside the knots as a little treat for yourself as a little breadstick. Now each ball of dough makes about 8 to 10 garlic knots, so go ahead and shape as many garlic knots as you'd like. Once you've shaped all the knots, get a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and lightly spray it with oil. Then place the knots onto the pan and brush the tops of the knots with extra virgin olive oil. Cover them up with plastic wrap and then set them aside for 1 hour to proof. Oh, and be sure to clean up the mess you made. So after the hour of proofing is done, go ahead and bake the knots at 450 degrees from anywhere from about 15 to 20 minutes or until the knots are nice and golden brown. In the meantime, put a saucepan on medium-low heat and add in any combination of 6 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and or butter. I'm gonna be going with a 50-50 mix for my garlic knots of olive oil and butter, but of course that's up to you. To that, add in 4 to 6 cloves of fresh garlic, crushed and minced, a large pinch of kosher salt, a pinch of red pepper flake, and 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. Sweat that over medium-low heat for about 5 to 6 minutes or until the garlic is super fragrant and softened. You don't want the garlic to brown or change color here, you're just gently infusing the oil with the garlic, spices, and the herbs. Once that's ready, take it off the heat and set it aside. When the knots are nice and golden brown, take them out of the oven and take a look how good they look. Nice and browned, but not too much. These are perfect for what I like. From here, while they're still hot, go ahead and dump them into a large bowl. Then pour over the garlic herb oil mixture over the knots and give them a quick toss. Crack in some freshly ground black pepper, some fresh parsley, and a generous amount of Parmesan cheese. Then give the garlic knots one last toss. And just look at this. These look fantastic. They're soft, warm, and smell amazing. To serve, all you need is a bowl and something to use for dipping. Just stack them up while they're hot, sprinkle over the top all that roasted garlic left on the bottom of the bowl. All of that roasted garlic has a ton of flavor that you don't want to miss out on, trust me. Warm up the sauce and ladle that into a side bowl and you've got a wonderful appetizer. Just dip the nuts right into the sauce and there you go. Zeppoles. Now let's try to do something sweet with our pizza dough. Zeppoles are basically a fried dough tossed in powdered sugar. Now here I'm gonna be making 2 kinds of Zeppoles. The normal powdered sugar kind that you find in pizzerias and a cinnamon sugar Zeppole. For the cinnamon sugar mixture, simply combine about 4 ounces or half a cup of sugar and a half teaspoon of cinnamon and mix that together. Then realize you need to add more cinnamon, so you add in another half teaspoon. And then another half teaspoon again when you realize that's not enough either. Look, I never said I was a genius, okay? Just add in whatever amount of cinnamon you need until it looks like this, alright? You can always add more or less cinnamon depending on what you like. Then, just set that aside. Now I know it's not traditional, but what I'm going to be serving with these Zeppoles, I'm going to be making a warm chocolate ganache sauce that'll go great with these. So to make it, in a microwave safe container or bowl, put in about 4 ounces of good quality chocolate. If you can, splurge a little bit more on the higher quality stuff. The sauce will still be good if you can't, but trust me, you'll definitely be able to taste the difference. Into that bowl, pour in an equal weight of heavy cream, add in a pinch of kosher salt, and a tablespoon of unsalted butter. Mix that together for a little bit and then place it into the microwave for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, give the mixture a quick stir and put it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds. Keep doing this until the chocolate is fully melted and completely smooth. And look at this, delicious, rich, and velvety. Once the ganache is ready to go, set it to the side and move on to the dough. Now for the Zeppoles. So to shape the dough for Zeppoles, you're gonna start it the same exact way that you did the garlic knots, flattening the dough into an even disc, slightly larger than your hand. Then, using either your bench scraper or a pizza cutter, cut the dough into roughly 1-inch strips in one direction, and then in the other direction, cut the dough into rough squares. You'll have some bigger and some smaller pieces, but for what we're doing, that's completely fine. Then, either dust the squares with flour or toss around the pieces a bit to separate them and to lightly flour the sticky cut edges of the dough. Once you've done that, line a baking sheet with a lightly greased parchment paper and place the pieces onto the pan. From here, we're ready to deep fry them. Now with deep frying, there's a couple things to set up to stay organized and to keep yourself safe. On one side of my pot, I've got the Zeppoles dough laid out and ready to go. I've got my frying oil warming up with the thermometer hooked up to keep track of the temperature while I'm deep frying the dough. And finally, I have a cooling rack that's been turned upside down on a baking sheet lined with paper towel. Now, it should go without saying, but please be careful when deep frying. Use your common sense, don't overfill the pot, keep an eye on the temperature, and just in case something goes wrong and there's a fire, never ever use water on a grease fire, okay? Cover it with a lid, turn off the flame, let the fire die out, if not, have a fire extinguisher on hand. I'm not trying to scare you away from deep frying, it's fun, it's simple, but just be careful. Now with that PSA out of the way, when your oil's between 350 and 375 degrees, you can go ahead and fry your dough. Place them in by gently dipping in a part of the dough into the oil and then letting go. Fry the dough for about 4 to 5 minutes or until the pieces are golden brown. While the Zeppoles are cooking, use your spoon to flip and move the Zeppoles around so they cook evenly. When the Zeppoles are golden brown, carefully pull them out with a metal or heat-proof slotted spoon and place them onto your wire rack to drain and cool for a couple of minutes. After all the pieces are fried, you can then go ahead and finish them off. In one bowl, I'm going to place in about half of the Zeppoles and I'm going to finish them in the classic New Jersey pizzeria way, with lots and lots of powdered sugar. There's no real set amounts here, just scoop a lot of powdered sugar and then toss and stir them around the bowl, adding more sugar as you need it. Now what's really awesome about this is that when the Zeppoles are nice and warm, the powdered sugar tends to dissolve into this wonderful icing that just melts in your mouth. Now for the other half of the Zeppoles, we're gonna toss that in the cinnamon sugar mixture we made earlier. Just like the powdered sugar ones, just give them a toss in the sugar to coat, and there you have it. To serve these family style, just stack them high into a bowl, warm up the ganache a bit in the microwave, and pour it into a cup to dip. Once you've made Zeppoles a couple of times, you can really play around with the flavors and fillings here too. For instance, you can take a piping bag and fill each of the Zeppoles with a pastry cream or a pudding to make sort of a Boston cream pie Zeppole. You can also mix in other flavors like green tea, citrus zest, spices, cocoa powder into the powdered sugar to make unique flavors on the outside. Personally, the way I like them best is just to keep them nice and simple in the way I'm used to from New Jersey. Just dunk them and enjoy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go eat away all my 2020 feelings and forget this year it even happened. And that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. While this video has taken me a long time to make, I will admit I've had a lot of fun with it and making it. Who knows, I may make more of these. Now, do yourself a favor, go make yourself some comfort food. You definitely deserve it. Yeah! And please be smart, be safe out there, and remember, wash your hands and take care. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Today we're making spaghetti.
What? Stop button. All that's left is to grate a little Parmesan cheese over the top. Do you like the sound of my dryer in the background? Or just a little bit, because I know you love the Parmesan as much as I do. Tragedy. What are you doing? And because it's a dessert, you can't, under any circumstances, not have, in some way, shape, or form, the most wonderful gift. Alright, let's go eat pizza. Let's eat pizza. You're ridiculous.
I got pizza, didn't I?